trucker convoy was the story of the year in 2022, and Tamara Leach was the newsmaker of the year in 2022, even though the mainstream news never actually put her on her shows other than to demonize her. But I think the understory of 2022 was that the conspiracy to smear the truckers and keep the false unanimity about the lockdowns, it failed because of citizen journalism. Mainly, if I may say so, by us at Rebel News. Here's a tweet I wrote on February 12th, 2022. 17 Rebel News reporters are in 9 cities today covering the convoys. Don't miss a thing. Go to our compilation page at convoyreports.com. If you like our work, please consider chipping in a few bucks. We don't take any money from the Canadian government, which is rare. Now, I wrote that to show off how much work we were doing, how much coverage we were doing with our citizen journalists compared to the CBC or the mainstream media. There were a few exceptions, but too few to mention. Rupa Subramania was one example of a mainstream media reporter who would actually talk to the truckers. I was writing tweets like that to drum up support for Rebel News, but don't think Trudeau and his cronies didn't notice also. Of course they did. How could they not? Like I said, the truckers were the greatest embarrassment Trudeau, frankly, has ever faced in his career. And for some reason, they didn't respond to his drama teacher soliloquies. He just can't stand the fact that blue-collar truckers embarrassed him. They have contempt for him. And citizen journalists told that story, even if the mainstream media wouldn't. He had all the big shots in the palm of his hand. CBC, CTV, Global, all the newspapers. But there was that pesky internet, those pesky citizen journalists on social media. Don't think Trudeau didn't notice. You don't spend billions of dollars a year buying and renting and corrupting the mainstream media to support your agenda without noticing the holdouts. And that is why the big story of 2023 is actually linked to the big story of 2022. 2023 is the year of Trudeau's revenge. The empire strikes back. Social media videos were the poor man's broadcasters. But Trudeau didn't control them. Well, enter Bill C-11, the Online Streaming Act, as it's known. It does one simple thing and sets the table for many complex things. It gives Trudeau's hand-picked CRTC regulators jurisdiction over the internet in the same way that they have jurisdiction over old-fashioned TV and radio. It's Trudeau's revenge on the internet. Well, it passed last night in the Senate by a vote of 52 to 16. It won't surprise you that China's 2 favorite senators, Peter Harder of the Canada-China Business Council and the disgraced Yuan Paowu, the pro-communist propagandist, both of them love C-11. It reminds them of China's censorship regime. 52 to 16. How embarrassing for Canada. Even more embarrassing, Patrick Brazeau abstained. How do you abstain? I mean, either have the courage to stand for freedom, and why not? You're a senator. You can't be fired. Or have the courage to admit you're a censor. How embarrassing to abstain. Anyways, the bill received royal assent last night, too, so it now only awaits being proclaimed before it is active law. Here's the government's press release last night. Let me read it to you. The new law will help ensure Canadian stories and music are widely available on streaming platforms and will help to reinvest in future generations of artists and creators in Canada. Oh, really? For decades, Canadians thrived on the internet without the CRTC's interference, but now the CRTC is here, the government's here in 2023 in the era of HBO and Disney and Netflix and Crave and YouTube and Facebook and Rumble and 1,000 other online services. Hey guys, Trudeau's here to save artists and creators. Yeah, right. Let me read some more. The Online Streaming Act requires streaming services to contribute to the creation, production, and distribution of Canadian stories in a way that is flexible and fair. It's that last part, though, isn't it? Fair. Trudeau will demand internet companies end their unfairness, you see. As judged by Trudeau, he will command them to promote things he feels are underpromoted and command them to censor things he thinks are too widely available. That's what fairness means. This will all be done in the name of fairness, of course. It's not fair that these internet companies give people what they want to see. That's just not fair. They have to give people what Trudeau wants them to see. That's fair. The law will give Canadians more opportunities to see themselves in what they watch and hear under a new framework that will lead to a modern definition of Canadian content that better reflects our country's diversity. Canadian artists, producers, creators, and our cultural industry can now count on a fair shot at success in the digital age. Hey guys, did you know that Canadians didn't have enough opportunities to see themselves until today? And now Trudeau is here to give them a fair shot. Does anyone believe this crud? I'll read more. The act aims to level the playing field. Whoa, really? Really? That means if you level a playing field, you lower those who are high and raise up those who are low. Imagine if the government leveled the playing field in any other field of endeavor, say professional sports. I mean, everyone needs a fair shot. I mean, it has to be fair. Just because a team's better doesn't mean they should have better results. And a government regulator will determine what fairness means. This is insane if you look at it from the point of view of the consumer, from the public, or creators, or journalists, or companies. But it is completely sane when you look at it from Trudeau's point of view. He wants to control everything you see or hear. Of course he does. He's a sociopath. He is a tyrant. Look at this. Next steps. Now that the Online Streaming Act has passed, the government will need to provide direction to the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, CRTC, which will be responsible for the implementation of the Act. A draft of this policy direction will be published in the Canada Gazette, Part 1, for public consultation, which will include input from anyone who wishes to participate, such as stakeholders, artists, businesses, digital creators, and Canadians. Information about how to participate will be available on the Canadian Heritage website. Following the public consultation, the final policy direction will be published in the Canada Gazette Part 2. So now that the law is passed, we will finally find out what the government actually intends to do with it. Isn't that funny? Pass the law first, then tell the public what the government plans really are. Let me guess. Wild guess. More control for Trudeau, more money for his friends, more penalties for his critics. Remember the other day I told you that this is just the first domino to fall. That's exactly what the government is admitting now, too. Here, look at this. The Online Streaming Act is one of 3 legislative projects that are a key part of the government's digital agenda. Online Streaming Act, Bill C-11, makes Canadian stories and music widely available to Canadians. Hey, guys, as if it wasn't. Online News Act, Bill C-18, requires large digital platforms to bargain fairly with news businesses over news content. No, it censors independent journalists like us. Online Safety, in development, promotes a safer and more inclusive online environment. That's their heavy censorship. C-11 gives the government the power to regulate the internet and to alter who can be seen. C-18 shakes down Facebook and Google to give money to Trudeau's approved journalists. And the Online Safety Bill, they used to call it the Online Harms Act, that allows for websites to be blocked or shut down by Trudeau's hand-picked digital safety commissioner. I'm not making that up. That's actually the name they chose. That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest, either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.